The mobility as networks approach considers mobility at the crossroads of all networks: the end user, the infrastructure, the platforms and data. It aims to provide relevant and needed solutions to the way we move people and goods, adapt to the needs of territories, and addressing climate change concerns. The ultimate goal is to design a mobility system or model based, first of all, on the uses and the needs. The wealth of mobility as networks lies in its strong multi-stakeholder dimension. This is why we went on a 4-day exhibition with 11 public and private partners convinced of the need to rethink our mobility models and adapt our current services. We wanted to understand the vision of the actors working at the forefront of mobility as networks, how they cooperated between themselves, and how they managed to transform their services while experimenting with mobility on site. We were looking for more than inspiration, but a clear roadmap of how to implement mobility as networks in France. In the Mobility as Networks framework, the future of infrastructures will depend on the intensification of their use, increasing the number of travelers in the same mode of transport, or by their appeasement in favor of closer and more active mode of transportation.
I think what is the most important is the municipality's role here is actually to promote the active modes of transport, because these, especially the walking as well as the biking, because it's cheap, it's for everyone, it's have all these good benefits, but it's really difficult to, you don't have the money behind it. So that's the municipality's role to really maintain the focus on these active modes of transport.
Understanding the uses and real needs of a territory is key to adapt and strategically plan the future of infrastructures.
It's been incredibly strategic in many ways. The ridership of this bridge now is 18,000 people a day, up from 2,000 the first year. So you can say 10 times over that this bicycle bridge has created new bicyclists. It has made cycling more attractive, more appealing, and caused more people to get on their bikes. And in surveys, people will say the exact same things. Yes, I bike more because of this bridge.
Since we have an offensive strategy for promoting EV electrical vehicles in Oslo, we're named the EV capital. We have a lot of incentives to buy and use EVs, like free parking and cheap to buy and free in the toll rings as for now, but what we're lacking now is we're lagging sort of on the infrastructure part. So that we're in that part we're seeing, or we're discussing at least, how we maybe can cooperate more with private actors, because they are able to roll out infrastructure for charging faster than the municipality are. With more like grassroots, the way we worked with the biking plan, we have a plan for building the biking infrastructure, and the way we did that was talking with a lot of people, like the Agency for Urban Environment that worked with it, and interviewing people, but also mapping. People were able to go and map where they walk and where they bike, and say this is where I need infrastructure. So that's also a way in involving private actors, but the normal people, not organizations.
Digital technology is at the heart of the mobility as networks revolution, where it is essential to favor user-centric mobility.
Well, to be relevant for the customer in the future, as a public transport authority, we need to be as good as the private car.
The end of standardized and uniform transport is near.
We're really trying to combine all sorts of transportation modes into a seamless, very convenient, very safe and environmental friendly way of traveling that I'll see happening in the near future.
We are very lucky in Oslo. The ticketing system here is built on trust. Everything is completely open. You enter a bus or a train or a boat or a tram or the metro without doing any kind of validation. You just use your mobile phone as a ticketing method. And in fact, we have in total today in the Oslo region, we have 64% of all our passengers are using a smartphone as a ticketing device. That means it will be easier for us than many others that are still struggling with paper tickets and NFC cards to integrate other models like car rentals, car sharing, bicycles.
The funny thing is about cities is that we collect very little data. It's starting, we're talking about smart cities now, and that's becoming a thing. But basically we spend billions of euros, billions of kroner, billions of dollars without knowing very much about how we actually spend them, measuring before, during and after.
What about autonomous vehicles? For mobility's networks, the intended use of autonomous electric vehicles should be better understood. We do not believe in the substitution of cars by an individual autonomous vehicle. We know their full potential is a part of a broader collective transport solution where traditional infrastructure is not efficient. There is no magic solution or recipe of governance, but a series of possibilities to act and organize all parties involved. The differences between context, territories, the choices of technology and urban planning, the diversity of lifestyles, the quality and complexity of pre-existing transport and mobility offers, but also the cultures and sensibilities of the actors vary. Therefore, in order to design mobility in networks, new approaches to governance and partnerships between actors is essential.
In order to design this new type of mobility, you really need to work across all stakeholders. Yesterday's transportation, basically the car manufacturer just sold your car and that was all. But now you need to work with all parties involved. So Drive Sweden is set up as what we call a strategic innovation program that brings together any player here that are needed for this to work. We have the government agencies like the transportation authorities. We have the city of Stockholm and Gotebörg and some other key cities being part of this. And also, of course, you have user organizations and companies already today busy with public transportation, because we all need to come together in like a big melting pot to enable this.
I think cities, especially governments, will have to actually regulate and make sure that these actors work together. But you can't force a good relationship, you can only suggest a good relationship. So public-private partnerships will be the back end. In Copenhagen, we have been very lucky because they created something called Copenhagen Solutions Lab. That their sole job and only job is to make sure that private companies and also startups like mine get to talk to the right people in the city administration. So they are a point of entry where they make sure that we first test the service and make sure that it actually solves a problem before we start scaling it in the city.
Mobility as a network means coming together and working in an ecosystem, but also creating a new ecosystem. And at Mobility X Lab, I say we are doing this with the corporate partners that we have, and also bringing in startups into the equation. And we can really see that things happen in the room when we sit together and speak with each other. New networks, new connections, new possibilities, new meetings, new knowledge, and new ideas, hopefully. So we'll see what happens.
So I think the first step is to have everyone in the same room and get them a seat at the table and start talking to each other. Because then they realize that the treasury people in this case, they aren't dangerous. Or the people working with the sustainability questions, they aren't dangerous either. But you never meet, you have never met. So I think you have to create places where those meet and more or less force them into the same room, because they won't go there voluntarily.
The main challenges are, do we know what does the customer want? That's the main challenge. What does the customer want? Do we have the right mixture between private and official thinking? Regulations in the future, how will they be? The car industry, of course they want people to use cars. We want people to reduce use of private cars. We want people to share and integrate the solutions into our app for the future.
Now start designing cities for people and not cars. We have done that for many years, and as long as it's affordable and accessible for people to move and to use the mobility services that are there, I think the program and the policies we now are starting to implement in Oslo is about making the city center and the city more livable.
The new generation mobility that we want to make happen relies not only on technology, you also need to look at business models, you need to make different partners work together that haven't really cooperated in the past. We need to look at policies, because it may take some policy changes for this to happen. And this is what we see happening in the Dry Sweden environment. We have the government agencies, we have cities, we have suppliers, we have transport operators, we have car manufacturers, and we are all joined by this ambition of building mobility, the 3.0 generation, if you like.